I go by Bert Everett for the last 75 years. I was in the Army in 1952-53, US 522-86289, entered into service at Fort Knox, Kentucky, which was 8 weeks as opposed to 16 weeks. I was scheduled from the beginning to school because of my background. I'd been working since I was 12 years old and during the war, World War II. So I had experience in the field of management. From then I was stationed in Alaska out of Fort Richardson into 120th AAA Gun Battalion, which was 120 millimeter guns in a quad of 4, worked off of a radar unit which was big as a trailer, a tractor and trailer. The mission was to protect Elmendorf Air Force Base. We were stationed in the boondocks around Elmendorf. I happened to be in headquarters battery, but we had under us we had A, B, C, and D, again strategically placed around Elmendorf. And we were supposed to protect from the air primarily. We also fired field artillery practice once a year. Anti-aircraft we practiced twice a year. It was good duty for me. I enjoyed it. I was in position to check equipment out, and we would go camping a lot, fishing, no hunting, but camping and fishing. And so traveled a lot during the woods and trails and stuff, not during the so-called section of I would say, a lot of people. We'd go out the way the cabinets were, somebody's living off of the land, only no water, no lights, everything was given by nature. Actually they're dogs, everybody had dogs. Nothing unusual. A lot of times on standing guard duty, depending on who you stood it with, they're a little jumpy. You're right there, 30 degrees, 20 degrees, 10 degrees below zero. You and your gun and a walkie-talkie, and your partner would hear something crunching, like walking in the snow, still in the night, day, whenever, and eerie feeling. And I've seen guys that have really got excited to the point that it was comical by hearing this and hearing that, thinking and knowing that maybe it might have been Chinese, Koreans that have already invaded us and such. During the investigation and after a laugh or two, it's nothing but a moose walking closer to humans for the fact that it was too cold in the higher elevations and they were looking for food in the lower elevation. And it was just a normal life, a lot of card playing, you're isolated. For those few that were married, it seemed like they were put in jail, they missed their family, it made a lot of them nervous, and actually they took the ammunition away from us there towards the end because some of the boys would get a little excited and have a few drinks and say they start shooting it, not at anybody but in the air or whatever. And we lived in Quonset huts where you had one unit had an oil stove and 8 to 10 guys in the unit. there was a saying, it got so cold that our oil stove froze, which happened quite often while they were running and burning. Simply the fact for that was that they had a carburetor and they had a little copper unit at the bottom where if there was water into the fuel oil, it would collect there and freeze and then block the oil from going in the stove. But I woke up many a morning with ½ to an inch of frost right 8 inches from me on the side of the Quonset huts. They were not insulated, hut, sheet of plywood over it, and that was it. And the weather, I would say that where we were stationed, the lowest would be 30 degrees that I've seen, below zeros. But normally it wasn't that bad. We had a company mascot who got into a lot of trouble. We had to eat sea rations twice a month that were going out of date, World War II, and consequently being in headquarters supply, I would take coffee and go to Elmendorf Air Force. We would trade it for sea rations, bring it back to the outfit, and we would have sea ration those days, and strip our sea ration. We would have hot dogs and strip the sea rations and save the fruit and 1 or 2 items, cigarettes, what might be in it, and put on to the troops. And a lot of it was fed to the company mascot, which was a golden retriever, who would sleep periodically 1 or 2 trailers. But what they fed the mascot, some guys, you learn which are good for the dog and which are bad. They would intentionally feed the dog bad, so that when the dog went to spend the night in your Quonset hut, it would pass enough gas for everybody to evacuate the hut. It's just so bad. And also the dog was real educated. It could urinate in the snow and spell its name. So we had a lot of times that it was laughable. One of the unit commanders that we had for a short time didn't like it. There was a lot of problems. Also for me, I managed a movie, which was five nights a week. In one of the Quonset huts, half of the hut was the movie, and the other half used as a church. So that helped occupy my time. Playing pinochle, double deck was the Norfolk. Also in our unit, being the headquarters, we again, it was five batteries in our battalion. When I first got there, we had a baseball team, a battalion baseball team that was stationed in our unit, and a lot of times we watched them practice in the summer and in the season where it was available, kept us occupied. Of course, we had movies every night. We'd go to I think it was, we were allowed 5 to 7, but you took them to Fort Richardson, exchanged them, they gave you take them 5, they give you 5, you showed them. It was $25 a night for the guys to see, and that gave me a few dollars, projectionists a few dollars, and for spending money. Other than that, every night we had like contest of pinochle cards, double deck, team of 2, and you would play for a beer. And you start whenever you could after evening chow and play till 10ish at night and then go to bed. That was done at a half of a Quonset hut was turned into a PX. 2 guys lived in the hut itself, and half was a wreck area because we were too far in the woods from Fort Richardson. So, and in those days, we were getting overseas pay for Alaska, excuse me, of $10 a month. Most of the guys in the outfit were either 1 or 2, which would pay grade about $95 a month plus 10, $100 a month. If you wanted to go to Anchorage, the best way to go was to, I mean, the only way to go really was catch a cab, and the best way was get 2 or 3 guys together for the cab, because the cab was $20. So that round trip is $40. That's half a month's pay for some guys. So you got it, and you only went to town once a month. Consequently, I mean, you're talking a beer and a hamburger, or a beer and a Coke, $10, sometimes 12. So a couple of us, right, three guys I went to town with regular when we did good. There was a little place that served moose steaks, so you could get a nice moose steak meal for $10, which was, again, mostly a hard hit on your salary. My quarters was in the supply headquarters. We had a Quonset hut divided in half. Back half was for supplies. Front half was battalion headquarters used for the unit. Our chain of command was captain, who happened to be West Point, who happened to be wounded badly in World War II, who actually they tried to discharge him, but he fought some manufacturing form. He was able to stay in as long as he wanted to, even though he was limited in marching, but not in the brain power. Followed by a warrant for 30 years, E7 sergeant, and E5 sergeant. The E7 transferred out and retired, moved up, and I fell at the right place at the right time. I was in line and moved right along. I had in that hut a room with one other guy. 2 of us slept in the headquarters Quonset hut by ourselves. We were on call 24/7 for emergencies and anything that may come up. Basically, the whole time we were there, I think maybe about 3 emergencies, and most of the time it had to deal with the guns, either closing down one or parts or ammo for the gun. Also, being the new guy, when I got there, I was there maybe 2 months before they promoted me to company medic. I explained to them I didn't know anything about it, wasn't trained for it. I shouldn't be the one to get it. But it made no difference. They gave me a medical kit and said, "You're still there, you don't get anybody." And sure enough, 3 months, maybe 4 later, they bring me a guy who was a lineman for the communications division, who slid down the pole, grabbed it, and got skinned on his thighs and his arms. And being not knowing what to do, I was told to pour Clorox on it, not Clorox, I'm sorry, peroxide on it, to sterilize it, and just wrap it with a loose bandage and take him to the main dispensary at Fort Richardson. Well, in doing so, this guy's big, kind of strong and everything. when the peroxide started bubbling a little bit on it when I poured it, he passed out, which scared me to death anyway. I thought I had a dead man on my hands. So after that little incident, I tried to get relieved of that duty because I wasn't knowledgeable what to do, and they wouldn't do it. So I was safe till I left, except for one more time, same situation. So I'd have got skinned, hurt like that. I think burned a little bit in motor pool from steam. But normally for the whole time there it was quiet. Couldn't, my medical degree started and ended there. My job was basically rules, regulations, and logistics. We had manuals and books to tell us what you should have, shouldn't have, and how much you allowed of stuff, and so forth. Logistic-wise, it was keeping on the line batteries up to date on getting what they needed ahead of time and not waiting for the last minute for certain things. And also you did research on what's needed and not needed. In other words, example, we had maybe 20 Quonset huts in the headquarters unit that were insulated with just a sheet of plywood screwed over the metal, and we were allocated like one sheet a month. Well, that didn't work for us, so being in headquarters and supply, we did a little trading primarily with the Air Force, who seemed to have everything that they wanted, needed, and top quality. Food, they didn't have to eat sea rations like we did, so we always had hot dogs and stuff like that from them to substitute that. But then we could take 20 pounds of coffee to the Air Force and get just about anything we wanted, supplies-wise. In fact, at one time, I had over, I don't know, 500-600 pair of ski socks hid in a Quonset hut for trading purposes if needed. And we got it caught on them, and I got the blame being the new guy because I didn't know any better. And it was, washed away, but that was the first time. Just don't get caught the second time. But, and also record keeping, we had a officer transfer out who was spit and polish, but records was terrible. He had a shortage on of approximately, when he transferred out, of $10,000. And the colonel came to my warrant and said, look, you got to do something for me. I'm being transferred to DC. I don't need this record showing on my unit. He said, he's going to pay for a couple of thousand, but I need something that you can do for it. Well, with the warrants, 30 years experience in it, and myself, we were able to cut down the 10,000 to approximately 2,000. He was short maybe two generators, electric unit generators, things of that nature. But most of it was small stuff, and most of it was paperwork where we had to audit papers back for about a year to correct them. So between negligence and a few theft, we were able to help that. But it was always something for me to do. I never felt lonely or isolated or depressed because there was nothing to do. There was always too much to do. And consequently, to me, it was good duty. A typical day was getting up at 6. We had a main laundry, not laundry, a main building that had 40 stools in it, 20 back-to-back row, and a gang shower where everybody took a shower with shower heads around, I don't know, maybe shower heads for, take 10, 15 guys at a time. Trouble is with those, wintertime, if you didn't get there first, you got cold water, or you didn't take a shower. But you get up at 6, I got up at 5:30, got to the shower at 6, before 6, came back, relaxed, stood the first call, then went over to mess hall and had breakfast, and from there, back to the unit. Mess hall was right across the street, if you will, from our headquarters unit, at which time, being a supply sergeant, I had access to going to the mess hall and obtaining a pitcher of coffee at the very end to start our day with, or at the unit, because we always had coffee. In the wintertime, especially, on our oil stove, we took a coffee tin, filled it with water, took coffee grounds, threw it into the water, and let it cook on the stove. And then you dipped your cup in there. You might get, it's all black, straight, no cream, no sugar, and you get some coffee grounds in there as well. But that was your coffee that you had, or whatever you had in the wintertime, and all the time really, because it wasn't, you could go out and go to the little unit PX wasn't open till evening, nothing in the daytime. And so you just have to live with what you had for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, except for the coffee. Now, naturally, a lot of guys got whole packages from home with candy in it and stuff, something to supplement. But you did your job, and we would visit, the warrant and I would take a run to a couple of the units if we were having trouble with any small problems. Big problems, we'll give it to the captain, which were very few and far between. And just routine job, same thing every day, 7 days a week. I mean, you had off, we had off approximately half a day Saturday and Sunday. And I think I mentioned it when we could get away, being in my position. If I could get a truck Friday, set it aside, put supplies on it, the minute we hit, we stood a head count, and whatever you want to call the unit commander wanted to say or do. As soon as that was over, we hit the road. Like it was anywhere, normally it was the same 3 to 5 guys. Occasionally we'd have up to 8. But we had a certain route we'd go, then we'd branch off, we'd find a camping ground, we'd take a laundry bag, fill it with beer, anchor it down in the stream, which was ice cold, and some of the guys would fish for salmon. Other guys sit around a campfire, just talk, have a few beers, cook, relax. So I think one of the guys had bow and arrow and did target practice with stuff like that. No weapons. They wouldn't let me check any weapon out to take with us. So there was no hunting. Some of the boys wanted to hunt. I didn't hunt. But fishing I did, enjoyed it. And, again, we just stayed busy and outdoors, good camping. And also, One of the places we stopped, it was a elderly man and woman who lived there, been there most of their lives. They had a little pen outside it. They kept a few animals in it, a couple of husky dogs, not so much for sledding, but I guess for companionship as well. But they stayed out all year, 24 hours, I mean, including winter. They had their own house to sleep. But they heated and cooked by a 55-gallon oil drum cut in half and hinged and made into a stove. And that was, they would listen to them tell stories. And, some of the guys, including myself, would take them maybe a couple of sea rations or something like that, a couple of beers and things to give them, appreciate letting us camp on their area because it was cleared out. And listen to their stories of different things. We even tried panning for gold up there on one of the trips. We didn't catch it, I mean didn't get any, but our company chaplain, battalion chaplain, he panned for gold, but he had a pill bottle with about an inch of gold in it for about 3 years' work. So you could do that.